Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Upshift Creek. I keep playing with the name. I don't know if it's the Upshift Creek or the I can't remember. Crazy Shift Show. Gotta watch how we say this. So, hey, good morning, Amy Miller. You are great to meet you, and
You too.
you're one popular person out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Let's just say people have heard of me.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's great for you to be here. I appreciate it, and hope you're doing well. So you're out in the other. We're guarding both ends of the coast or of the country. You're out in Seattle, so hopefully you're staying safe. And as you reopen over there, I'm on the East Coast. About 70 miles west of New York City. So obviously still a hot spot. Fortunately, we've been safe and good and things are working out, but a lot of struggles, and that's what we're going to talk about. We want to talk about a lot of people are looking for jobs. Employers are still looking for good people. Obviously, you have a job, and I've been incredibly busy. So we're going to talk about all that. I know we have people on both sides here. We have people of, hey, we used to have 100 people apply. Now we got 1,500 people apply.
Right.
What are we going to do with that? And then you have the other side is, how do I get recognized? I'm trying to apply. How do I get found now? I had trouble before getting discovered. And now I've got 35 million people applying for jobs, or they will be. And how do we get discovered? So we're going to talk about all those things in just a few minutes. For anybody who's listening or watching, I got a couple things going on here for you. If I can find all my banners and so forth. Let us know where you're calling from. What state, what city, what place. I have my book up for a drawing if you'd like to participate. And before the end of the show, you'll get it. I just got to find where my banner is here. So real simply, you can go to bit.ly /join G Nation, and you'll be automatically entered into a contest to get a free book. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is you can text if you pull out your smartphone, text to 6400. I should have put that up there. 6400. And you can text RAG, as in recruiting in the age of Googleization, RAG, the number 4 free, FREE. So type send to 6400, RAG 4 free, and you'll automatically be entered into a contest to win a free book. So we'll get that down there. And we'll go back to here. For anyone who's not a member of Googleization Nation, I hope you will be. You'll get updates and notices about the podcast live streams. I've got Amy here today, obviously. Tomorrow I got Cheryl Cran. She's actually an author of 9 books, and we're going to be talking about next mapping, what the future is going to look like. Wednesday, I've got, who's on Wednesday? Oh, my podcast is Wednesday, Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. And we've got Julie Ann Sullivan. We're going to be talking about the catalysts of culture. And again, another super important topic to move forward. But today, we got Amy. We got it. So, Amy, you got a fascinating background. I love your tagline, which you can share. Recruiting in yoga pants, right?
That's me.
Yeah, and that's how it's become. I mean, obviously, everybody's sort of been. I can't remember I've had long pants on in the last 2 months. They were my Adidas. They were my warm-up pants.
Absolutely.
And it was only because we were still freezing here when I had to go out. Otherwise, I've had my shorts on and T-shirts, and I got dressed up today. I put my button.
I wore a scarf today. That's about as close as I'm going to get to being dressed up. No, I don't remember. Well, except yesterday. We did go for a hike yesterday in honor of Mother's Day. But beyond that, I don't remember the last time I wore shoes. Like I have not left my house. It's barefoot nation over here.
Yeah, for sure. So, you've got an interesting background. I mean, you didn't go, which is, I spend a few minutes on that. You didn't necessarily, as a young kid, say, I'm going to grow up and be a recruiter.
Oh, heck no.
So how did you get here? How did you get in this role? Because you obviously love it. You found your place.
I do. I found my place. I actually wrote, I have a blog, recruitinginyogapants.com, if anybody wants to check it out. I actually wrote the story last week because I was getting so many questions, and I'd done a video about dream jobs and that kind of thing. So the full story is there if anybody wants to read it, but I'll give you the highlights. So basically grew up in a small town, rich kids went to college. I was not one of those. So didn't even know what recruiting was. Had never heard of it. My dream job back in the early 90s was to work in an office. That's it. If I could be like a receptionist, right, I would have arrived, and ended up on the West Coast and from Kansas. Finagled my way into like a temp job and working for an advertising department for a big well-known staffing agency. And I was on the phone with my employment guide rep because I was responsible for like publishing our print ads. That's how long ago this was. Yeah. And he said, you'd be a great recruiter. And I said, well, do they make good money? And he's like, they make tons of money. I'm like, cool. No clue what it is, but sign me up.
So what did he see? I guess, what did he see in you? I mean, what makes a good recruiter?
I think, and I will, his name was Steve. I will never forget this person who introduced me to my first recruiting boss, Kelly. So Steve and Kelly, if you're out there, I'm sorry and thank you. I think what it was is I was a talker. This is somebody who worked with recruiters all the time, so he had he was the sales rep. And so he was constantly, trying to sell column inches, right? And he's like, you're just personable. Like you like to talk, you ask a lot of questions, you want to learn stuff, like that curiosity and kind of fearlessness. I mean, I was 24. I wasn't afraid of anything. I've learned better now, but that's what he saw. And he introduced me to Kelly, who was the recruiting manager, and she turned me down. I did the interview and everything, and she's like, you'd probably be good, but, I need somebody that can start right away, and you've got to give notice at your job and all this. And I hounded her for 2 weeks. And finally, she's like, okay, fine. When can you start? I said, well, Kelly, if you'd offered me the job 2 weeks ago, I could start tomorrow. But since you didn't, I'll start in 2 weeks. And somehow she still hired me. So I think that combination of tenacity, fearlessness, and just asking a lot of questions and trying to be a sponge was what Steve saw.
So are they still, so that was, how long you been doing this?
22 years.
Wow. Okay. So looking forward, okay. So that late 90s, before, in the heyday,
like in the 98.
In the .com boom.
Yeah.
So you basically have survived through, the 9/11s and the 2008s and all the other ups and downs.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're in 2020, and this is unprecedented. No time like this. For somebody that's considering, is either in the space or considering doing this, is it the same skills? I mean, what else, or what else? What's changed?
Yeah. I think the core fundamentals will never change. This is still a people business. If you can't work with people, you don't have to like them, but you have to be able to work with them. That's one of the biggest misconceptions. I would never want to hire somebody who says, I'm a people person. Ooh, I got bad news for you. So it's the ability to partner, the ability to ask lots of questions. Those fundamental things I think are always going to be there. However, in the age of Googleization, we have this whole other layer of visibility that did not exist 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now you cannot sneeze without someone saying, oh my God, that recruiter from Amazon just sneezed. And now all of a sudden I'm sneezing for the entire company. So that's a wrinkle that I think anyone coming into the business now needs to understand the importance of managing that online brand and managing the perception as best you can that people have of you.
So I want to get back to the brand, because obviously you're working with some brands, Amazon.
Yeah.
You've had a history with Google. Yep. You've had a history with Microsoft. By the way, I love the comment the other day that they said, how are we talking about Googleization? and so I went up, and I actually did find this. I went up, and somebody owned Amazonization. So somebody already had that. What they didn't have was Amazonization Nation.
There you go. See, opportunity.
So I'm planning for the future.
Nice.
Or a parallel event.
I love it.
So we're talking about there. Microsoft's, doesn't quite have that same buzz, although they're changing a lot too. Obviously, they're on the path.
Absolutely. Satya's killing it.
So you mentioned about employment brand.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, when I'm talking to, we were talking a little bit about Google for Jobs before, right before we went on the air, but and how many people don't know that. But, an employment brand is at the buzz. A lot of people in 2019, 2020, and then they said for 2021, employment brand was going to be it. This was the area of focus, that and candidate experience, which sort of go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
But employment brand is critical. You don't have to be Amazon. I mean, in order, you don't have to be Google. In fact, they've got some brand issues at times, with certain things. Let's talk about that a little bit. When you're recruiting somebody, while you're representing Amazon now, but when people are coming to you, I mean, how important is the employment brand? What's the pathway that they took to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, any well-known company, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and this has been the experience at all three of them, there are a lot of people who want to work for said companies. We get it. The applicant flow is never necessarily an issue. The quality of applicant flow, making sure the right people are applying, those kinds of things, that can where it's a little tricky. I think the challenge with a bigger company is you only control that narrative to a certain degree. You can certainly put out some clever videos and you can have some shiny marketing stuff. There's the brand and then there's the reputation. You hope that the brand influences the reputation, but the reputation is based on how people experience you. So whether they've gone through the applicant or interview process with me, whether they have friends that work here and love it or hate it. So there's a lot of other stuff that a brand can't necessarily impact, but hopefully can help maybe just provide direction to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sort of laughing because my head's spinning. There's so many thoughts. It's like every 3 words you say, it's like, oh, we can go there. We can go there.
Yeah.
So,
all the rabbit holes.
What just struck me was the other day that Glassdoor had a massive layoff. I don't know if you heard,
I did hear some rumblings. So
they had a massive layoff. Like a lot of the tech companies, they got, they kept their tech support, but their business development people kind of went away. And the question was, I'm trying to remember who said this, or maybe I don't know if I read it or I thought about it or I heard it. They said, I wonder if Glassdoor people to go up to leave their reviews. And do they go to Glassdoor?
It never occurred to me to look. I got to go check now as soon as we're done here. I got to go see if anybody's commenting.
And so it's like where to if you're terminated from Glassdoor, where do you post your job?
How do you vote on that? And that's speaking of Glassdoor, I mean, I worked for a very small company before I joined Microsoft, and we had horrible Glassdoor ratings. They called us all the time trying to sell some package or whatever. So okay, that's been my experience, so whatever. But I would actually lead with that in a recruiting call. Hey, you've probably already seen some stuff. Let's talk about it. What questions do you have? So even when you have a bad reputation, thanks Glassdoor, there's still ways to get ahead of it.
But Glassdoor isn't the only place that has ratings. I mean, if Indeed is still dominates as far as a job board, if that's your primary source of candidates, and the first thing you see is the job rating up there. Have you had, again, you're working for some larger organizations, but you're also pretty well connected. Do people not apply when the reviews are low? I mean, now people are going to be desperate, so I don't think they care. But,
I can say for sure. And it's less about people applying maybe. So I guess you would say, people aren't applying as much because those are typically where we have to go and hunt for them. And we have to go and convince them to talk to us. And so sometimes it's an entire company, like the small company I worked at before. Sometimes it's a division. maybe a particular division of a company has some struggles or a less than stellar reputation. So, you got to remember these large, like 100,000 plus or hundreds of thousands people, there's not necessarily a single unified culture across the whole thing. There's geographic considerations, there's product line considerations, there's a lot of nuances between what you're doing on the East Coast and what I'm doing over here.
Right. So now I work with primary small, mid-sized companies, and they may have, anywhere from 5 people to 1,000 people. And there are most of them are privately owned, and they have that reputation. A lot of them don't pay attention to these ratings. So, my advice to them is that people who want a job, they want a paycheck, they either need to do it or they need more money or they have to relocate. Maybe the rating, I'm not sure people are going to, I would say if they have a 1 or a 2 rating, people, then they might get affected. But for top talent, when you're looking for skilled talent, when you're looking for people who have choices, then that just may be easy. That if you have a 3 or lower rating, I'm just not going to pursue that on a active basis. Now, for the passive candidate who's sitting back there waiting to be called by somebody like you, that you've done your research and you realize, then that could turn somebody off, but you have an opportunity to teach,
absolutely,
to work with them.
I totally agree. And frankly, even if in this time with this unprecedented unemployment, and let's say you get a star who had the misfortune of being laid off and is kind of, just needs to get a paycheck, if your culture actually represents that rating, you're going to have a retention problem.
Oh, for sure. Right. It's just the paycheck that people are going to get, and then your turnover is going to start. So I want to continue on the company side for just a minute, and then we're going to switch. So for anybody who's listening out there, waiting to hear is, hey, how do I get found? Hang tight. And these are also important. I talk quite a bit, sort of built my reputation the last few years about candidate experience.
Yeah.
So I follow, I work, not that I work with, but I follow the talent board. Kevin Grossman and Jerry Crispin's work. They've been on here. We've talked to them a lot. I hadn't thought of that when I initially wrote the book in 2017. I mean, I was talking about candidate experience, but then over the time, really dove down into it, started to understand a lot more about UX, user experience, CX. I know you were just on the with Leandris. Yeah, just a few weeks ago, and Debbie Levitt. I don't know if you know Debbie. Debbie's. I met Lee through Debbie. Debbie, she has a book called Delta CX, and she's taught me a lot. She has the 4 horsemen. You'll love this. If you haven't seen any of what I was doing, she talks about the 4 horsemen of candidate experience. It was the 4 horsemen of bad customer experience. Now, so I said, hey, can I adopt this? And it's it's the 4 horsemen. So it's now in one of my talks, one of the most popular ones. That your candidate experience is all, I'm not going to say this because I don't know how to say it, all FCDD up. So
okay. I gotcha.
Okay. So it's FC. So it stands for frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. Yeah. Those are the 4 horsemen. So it basically was, when you think about, and this is when I say people think about the process. Somebody says, hey, I don't care that you had a 2 rating. I need a job. I'm going to go there. Yeah. And then they click apply, and it starts before the click apply, but let's start there. So they go to click apply, and then everything falls apart. It's that, I've got to log in. This application, I've been on it for 20 minutes and I don't know where I am. I don't know how long it's going to take. Or I pull up my smartphone and it's like I'm pinching and squeezing and trying to find the fields. Yeah, it's all these issues. So how challenging is it for you? Because obviously you're presenting the resumes, but and you're doing bigger tech. But again, a lot of where I'm working with is more on the front line, the associate. So it'd be this distribution, the production, the healthcare workers. Yep. They're, they may or may not have college educations, but this is their only connection to the internet. This is the only way they can apply that, or a tablet, and they can't do it. I mean, how detrimental is that? I mean, have you experienced problems that people say, I'm just not going through all that BS that I'm asked to do to apply.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because and keep in mind, before I did tech, I did everything. So this was a big problem at the company before, where I basically recruited everything but our university hiring team. So marketing, logistics, admin, everything. And not only did I have Glassdoor to contend with, but yeah, our application process was not super easy. We were a very small company. When Apply with LinkedIn came out, this was supposed to be like the savior. But if your tool is not reading the information correctly, and so getting into like resume parsing and all that nonsense, it can still be very frustrating, because then that's when candidates feel like they've been dropped into some mythical black hole. So yeah, it is very frustrating. We do need to find that balance between making it easy for someone to get us the right information, and that's the key, the right information, but then also not making it so easy that any random person, regardless of background, can just click, and kind of, it creates a lot of noise, which unfortunately causes people who are really a fit and have taken the time to apply to maybe get lost, because now they're in this big bucket full of profiles.
Right. So a couple of months ago, and actually I applied. There was an opportunity, and I had to go through the process for an adjunct professor at a local school, at a local college. They were starting a new graduate program, which I have got, by the way. So we're designing a course, and the timing couldn't have been better, because my I think I may be doing a second one, but the first one is organizational change. So you talk about timing. To be able to create to be able to create a course from scratch about organizational. Yeah. So it's not that I'm fit in and it's like, okay, here's your curriculum, here's your syllabus. It's like, okay, now I get to do it. And so that'll be a ton of fun. But I won't give the name, but I had to go through one of the traditional ATS, and my resume was pretty straightforward, had the fields all lined up. I knew the basics of what to do. I want to put myself as an expert out there. And there were two different roles. So there were two different colleges. So I applied for one and I applied for the other.
Yeah.
The one, I uploaded my resume and I literally had to retype the entire thing in. Yeah.
People hate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, I mean, it was, the required fields. That was the other thing. It wasn't that I could just get my name and upload a resume. They also did we require you upload the resume and complete the application. So it was that redundant. So I had the opportunity, and this is the school that I did get to, that I submitted it, and it was pretty good. There was a couple mistakes, but just last Wednesday, I don't know if you're familiar with this company. They're based in Ireland. They're now worldwide. One is I pursued the parsing thing. That was a frustration both from my side as an experience from the candidate, but you can imagine from the company side too. Is like, hey, we have this technology and it's not working.
Yeah, for sure.
That I checked around. I had a conversation. I think Kevin Grossman and Jerry Crispin were on a show right around there. Talked with them about it, and they said, yeah, there's some good parsing out there, but they're mostly add-ons. They're not like part of the system. Yeah. But last Wednesday, our guest on Google Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization on the podcast was Declan Murphy. Declan has a company in Ireland, and his product is called All Sorter. It's allsorter.com. Based on all the problems that were out there, again, innovation, taking advantage of the opportunity that was out there. He's claiming right now they have a 93% transfer rate.
That's awesome.
And their goal is getting up to 98. I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect. People have different formats and different texts.
Yeah, for sure.
Things. So, there is hope along the way that was there. So you might want to kind of just
I'm going to check it out.
Take
that
a peek
sounds
at
amazing.
That. So, and for anybody that's listening out there, you can go up to the Geeks, Geezers, Googleization.com. It's the top. It's the most recent one, so it's right at the top, and you can listen to the podcast there. So as we go through this, obviously that's a discouragement.
Yeah.
People drop out at all those levels. I assume you've lost candidates that you said, "Hey, listen, we're really interested. Go up," and they just don't want to go through all the BS there.
It's happened.
Let's flip it around, and we sort of segued into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the seeking a job. Because it was tough before. I mean, it was, unemployment. We had about 3 to 4 million unemployed people. It was pretty competitive. We were down in the, this low single digits of unemployment rate. Companies were really struggling to find people. So there's two parts of this. One is the floodgates are going to open, and I heard this the other day from, I shared this with I can't remember, it was an interview or just a conversation. And I said, my line has been that talent acquisition recruitment is going to be like shoveling out of a snowstorm, out of a blizzard, with a teaspoon. And he said, it's funny you should say that. He said, I just spoke with a client who they felt fortunate if they got 25 to 50 applications for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Small business,
right?
1,500 applications from Indeed within 24 hours. And he said, we just pulled the ad, which means then what do they do? Where do they go? I mean, because they just got 1,500 emails. So there's two parts of this, and I'll give you a choice where you go. Is from the company side, what do they have to do to fix it? From the employee side, from the job seeker, not the employee side, but from the job seeker side, how did they get recognized? If they had trouble before among 50 applications, how did they get recognized? How do they get found with 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 times more than that?
No, absolutely. I mean, I can definitely speak to either side and probably argue both sides of either side.
we have people watching this on both sides.
So I think I'll start with the employer side now, just super quick, because I want to spend some time on the job seeker side, because I think that's where a lot of the frustration is, and probably a lot of people watching are people who are more inclined to want to know that. So
they might be.
I mean, they're personally like, I'm looking, help me out, So from the employer side, I think number one, it is absolutely critical that your job description is spot on. Like, you should not be leaving room for error. If a degree, which I don't agree with a degree being a requirement, but if it is, say that, right? If you don't have any flexibility in like years of experience, you need somebody very senior because they're going to be leading a big thing. That's okay. Use those basic qualifications as a way to help people filter themselves out. Because not every job is going to be for everybody. I get it. Job seekers are going to have to be very diligent in how they are pursuing. You can't just randomly apply. You're just going to frustrate yourself. But an employer has the responsibility to make it crystal clear. This is the problem we're trying to solve. This is the kind of person we identified that needs to come and do it, and then make the application process easy. By doing that, if you're being very, very diligent and saying we absolutely need to see people that have X requirements, it makes it that much easier to kind of quickly review those 2,500 people or 1,500 people, whatever the number was, and pull out the ones that actually do meet those qualifications that you took the time to set up front. That's critical. So now, as a job seeker, before I go on,
So I talked, one of the talks I do, and I just presented this at the Indiana HR conference last week, it's keeping the human in HR. In fact, over the weekend, another website that I went up just to claim the name was humanization. Obviously, but is humanization at work. And that became the theme, because that's a lot of what we're talking about. How do we keep the human, not only in HR, but human in business? And part of that. But when I first presented that a year ago at SHRM National at their summer meeting, is a lot of people came up and said they were disappointed because they thought I was going to say that technology is bad and we shouldn't use technology, and that's why we don't have the H in HR. And
interesting.
And my point was that technology is here whether you like it or not. But by using technology at the right place, then you have more time to be human and not hide behind the technology.
Absolutely.
Because you still have this black hole. You still have all this process. And even if you have a bad application, but somebody's willing to go down, they're willing to spend 30 minutes filling out every field on a smartphone. If they're willing to do that, they deserve an acknowledgement They
Sure.
deserve a more than
100%.
thank you for submitting. Hey, we get a lot of I had this the other day from a conference. It was like, hey, thank you for submitting your application. We're really excited. We've had so many qualified people apply. If you don't hear from us, you didn't get the position. I go,
yeah, it doesn't feel
oh
great.
crap, that's like 6 weeks from now, and I'm going to sit there and I said they took that note right from HR. By the way, it was an HR conference.
Yeah.
They took that.
Of course.
That had nothing to do with technology.
That's a process.
HR removed the
100%.
From that. So there's chatbots, there's ways you talked about screening, being able to qualify people. I'm an advocate of front end, either a short screen or short application using a chatbot to just say, hey, and I agree with you. I hate the requirement of 5 years experience. You need a 4-year college degree.
Thanks,
that's irrelevant. Right.
Right.
But if you do require it, let's say you need to be licensed in the state.
Sure.
In order to be licensed, you need that. So ask, are you licensed in the state? Absolutely. If they're not licensed in the state, well, maybe they're licensed in another state. So ask that. If you really do need somebody that has experience, do you have more than five or more years experience? Ask that question. If they say no to any one of those, don't waste your time. Don't waste their time.
Yep.
It's pretty simple.
Knockout questions.
I get so much resistance to that. It's like,
I think it's ridiculous that you're getting resistance to that. So here's my thought on technology. And so here I have an ink pen. All right. This could be considered a technological advancement over, chiseling out stone, right? Okay. Right. It's my choice if I write compliments or criticism. It's how I use the technology, what people experience as a result of reading what I wrote with my technological advancement. It's not the pen itself that's bad. It's how I'm using it.
Great analogy. Yeah. By the way, I'm old enough to remember for one of my gifts a long time ago. I remember getting a fountain pen. That you had to dip it into the ink.
Fun.
That it was like, hey, that was classic. If you submit something to business, if you're writing a letter and it's done with a fountain pen, I don't think I have it anymore, but yeah, I'm old. I'm the old boomer. I just try to think like a millennial, for good or bad. So let's talk about the job seekers. Let's flip it around. Okay. So I'm a job seeker. I'm one of the 35 million people out there. I'm trying to look for a job. What do I need to do to stand out? What do I need to do that Amy Miller finds my application and my resume and says, Ira's worth talking to?
Absolutely. So I think it's important to understand a recruiter's actual job. My job is to find people that fit certain criteria. So I'm always going to be looking through the lens of what I'm hiring for, the teams that I'm supporting in my company, the type of roles that are sitting on my desk open. I will look at everything through that lens. I get hundreds of messages every week through all the different platforms with people who send me their resume. I want to be something completely unrelated to anything that you do. Do you have any jobs for me?
I'm looking to change my career, right?
Yes.
And you become a career counselor, right?
Yeah. So, it's such a difficult intersection because I want to be helpful. I'm sympathetic to our market and I've recruited through a couple of recessions. I mean, this one's even throwing me for a loop, having done this 20 some years. But I also have a responsibility to the applicants who are meeting the qualifications for the jobs that I actually have posted. Like, that's where I have to, first of all, spend my time. And everything else, frankly, becomes after hours volunteer work. So please, as a job seeker, my absolutely first tip, make sure that you are looking for the right people and the right opportunities. You really need to take stock of what you're good at, what you can do, what you want to do. Sometimes what you can do and what you want to do may not be exactly the same.
That's for sure.
In this
I'd
market.
I'd like to do a lot of things.
I mean, I hiked yesterday, realized I'm not super good at it. So I will not be trying out for like, wilderness explorer job anytime soon.
Right.
Here's the thing. What you can do right now in this pandemic, in this time of very high unemployment, is probably where you need to spend your time. You may want to go do something different down the road. What you can do is kind of where we need to start. Now, look at roles that are actually hiring what you can do. There may not be a lot.
Right.
Hopefully there's some.
So let's look at, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
hospitality, retail,
Sure.
entertainment. I mean, a lot of those jobs aren't going to be available. So if that's where I had my, either my full-time job or I enjoyed that as a career, and there are people that enjoy that as a career. What would you advise them? How could what skills do they need to highlight?
Yeah. So think about the skills that are potentially transferable, right? So if I've worked in hospitality, for example, I've been talking to people, I've been dealing with angry customers, I've been, solving customer complaints, things like that. Now, I don't recruit for call centers, so I don't know how that's going right now, but I would assume that we're going to see an uptick in remote call center type
I can
work.
tell you, I've had, because I've been really busy. I mean, and 8 weeks ago, and I've said this over and over again, 8 weeks ago when this started, I figured I'm not going to get any calls. Worried about, my clients. I was worried about them. Are they going to continue to hire to buy? Because the main part of my business is, I mean, I talk, this is where I spend all my time talking, researching. But the main part of my business is pre-employment and leadership tests. So who's going to be promoting, who's going to be hiring, and especially at that frontline level.
Yeah.
I'm on par with where I was last year. I have a pretty decent pipeline of new clients that have been calling over the last 8 weeks, which means that there are businesses that are hiring. What are businesses that are hiring? Obviously, healthcare, not necessarily the hospitals, skilled nursing facilities. I have a few of them. Distribution, you're obviously Amazon is
logistics, absolutely.
Logistics, transportation. Got to get all these products out there. But definitely call centers, and not necessarily the traditional call centers. Although I'm working one right now with who's a promotional marketing company. So you would think that so they're looking, and I think there's also companies that are looking at going forward. It's like, hey, we have a chance now to get good talent, but we've not been really successful at identifying those people in the past. So, how can we use testing, or how can we improve our process to get there? But a lot of environments weren't basically call center before. Anybody who's a remote worker who's now taking calls from home, just because they were in your office and they were customer service, or they were business development people, and they were accepting calls in your office, they were call center people. You just didn't call them call center people.
Absolutely.
Now they're working remote, just like every, companies that went virtual a few years ago, like, JetBlue, it's like, hey, you weren't calling into some corporate center in New York, or Kentucky, or overseas, or Philippines. You are calling to somebody's home. So everybody's in call center. So go ahead. So
absolutely.
That's a great suggestion.
And this is a time to focus on the survival job, maybe, and that's okay. There's no shame in that. I'm not going to be mad at you if you apply to a job, with an exit plan when things turn back around. That's fine. But it is really identifying the roles that are hiring, and that you can map to, that you can show us, because as a recruiter, I've got a limited amount of time to look at all those applications. The more that I'm able to quickly see, oh yeah, this person has done these things. Oh yeah, this person could do the things I'm asking them to do. The more likely you are that I'm going to call you, submit you to the hiring manager, basically get you in process. Like, make it easy for me to see how you match up to the basic qualifications.
Right. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm looking, and we'll use this example, it may not be the perfect one, but, I was a server, and obviously I'm not getting called back. I worked for Disney. I'm not getting called back. I worked at a sports stadium or a concert hall. I'm not getting called back right away. But I've dealt with people. I was in customer service. I dealt with angry people. I dealt with crowds. How can I transfer those skills? So the cover, I mean, somewhere in the resume or somewhere in a cover letter should be, here's why I fit this role. Although, because if you look down, I have zero experience working in a call center or customer service or distribution or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Right?
But you do have the experience. It's just positioned a little differently.
Right.
And so now is the time to like kind of reposition it. So we're not lying. We're not saying something that's not true.
But they have to translate that for you.
Exactly.
You know,
it's so just like leaving the military. How do I translate my MOS into something a company actually hires? Well, thank God some people have built MOS translators and some are better than others. But you get the idea. Like, it's not, oh, I was a tank mechanic. It's, oh, I dealt with, fixing whatever they do.
Complex.
You know what I mean?
Complex equipment, right?
Yes, exactly. And tracking and data entry and,
Right. It
all that.
used to be like, what's military logistics have to do with distribution?
A lot. Right. Potentially, right?
Nobody want, oh, you have military experience. You never worked in a warehouse before. Okay.
Right. I grew up on a military base. Well,
right. The experience was there, but
it's all in how you translate it. 100%. Yeah.
Right. So, hey, we're, I said before, I'm a miserable failure at trying to keep these at 30 minutes. So we're not quite at 45, but I do have a question for you. Well, one is there anything else that any other advice you'd give a job seeker? Because then I have a kind of a closing question I want to give you.
Yeah, this is going to sound so kind of Pollyanna, but like, just give yourself and give everybody around you a little grace. We're all struggling, and nobody having a good day right now consistently. So it's okay to get mad. It's okay to, punch pillows or whatever. But when you are talking to recruiters, when you're talking to potential bosses, and I would say the same to those bosses and recruiters to the job seekers, we all need to give everybody a little bit of grace right now. Like, just be kind, go swear when you're off the phone.
Right. Like, let's not do it all publicly and take it out on people. Nobody deserves that under any circumstances.
Right.
But there is a side of that. There is a whole human side. Again, that's why I like the theme, like humanization. There is a whole human side coming out. There's also some pretty brutal people, and people just aren't going to grow up, and they were like that before. They're going to be like that now, and things were supposed to be handed to them. So appreciate that. Okay, final question. And again, you've got some experience. You've been around a little bit. Not calling you old, by the way.
I started when I was 12. Didn't I tell you that?
So I got a lot more years. I got decades on you.
I'm just that silent Gen X generation. That's where I land.
And I'm still kicking. Yeah, I'm almost. Yeah, we're way separated. What surprised you most about the last couple weeks?
Oh gosh. What surprised me most about the last couple of weeks?
What good or bad? What surprised you most about this whole crisis?
This isn't necessarily related, although everything's somehow related to job seeking and recruiting, I guess.
No, it doesn't have to be related. No, it doesn't have to be related.
I think what surprised me most, and there's always been like social media, there's readily available on 24/7, kind of world that we live in, I think has made some of us way too comfortable being ourselves online. I think that people say things. I approach social media in this way. Would I say this at a public event with my Nana standing next to me? Would I say this?
Mm-hmm.
And if I would not say something in that forum, if it would be too rude, if it would be too inappropriate, if it would be too whatever, that my Nana would be sad or that I wouldn't want the larger audience to hear me, I absolutely shouldn't say it on social media. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't get that message. Now, I am not one to go troll a candidate's social media and make hiring decisions based on what I see there. I do not do it. But I do have friends and family that I'm kind of raising an eyebrow to a little bit like, what? So that has surprised me a lot. I think a lot of our emotion about this whole thing is just spilling over online. forget about job seeking. This is not good for your health or your life or your family and your friendships.
Right. When you first said that, I wasn't sure if you were talking about like, well, we're not on a Zoom, but a call like this, that people being proper.
I
I
mean,
think of behavior on most of these, other than people that are bombing us.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
have been pretty good. But you're talking mostly social media.
I'm talking just, well, and even on LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know. Do we consider LinkedIn social media? I guess so, right? But just,
social
you can
networking.
have political opinions and you can, share videos about the pandemic all you want. That's fine. But again, run it through the filter of, would my Nana be embarrassed? What I want,
well, that was good advice before too. So.
I mean, and I feel like this, maybe I'm just more in tune to it. I don't know, but that's what surprised me most in the last couple of weeks, just how many people are kind of forgetting some of the basic social graces that we learned in kindergarten, I think, pretty sure.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if that's forgiven afterwards. It's like, hey, I was just under a lot of stress during that time.
Sure.
Some people may forgive you, others may not. And and what's is the old Vegas thing? What stayed in Vegas? What you did in Vegas stayed in Vegas.
Well, now it's on TikTok.
What we did on TikTok or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, it also stays there too. You're
and
not
it's not that people have changed.
You're not.
I don't believe
unless you're a celebrity, you're not getting it taken down.
You're not. Yeah. And I don't think people have changed. I think this is who we are, and I think this is how we react. And I certainly have been guilty of my share of gallows humor, but now it's just so visible, and it's visible to people we don't even know who could have far-ranging impact on our professional career, personal relationships, all of that. So that's all. Just be kind.
Cool. Hey, Amy, it's been a pleasure. I know you and I can talk all day about this. I'm sure we'll be talking again. Really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely really appreciate it. For a reminder, tomorrow at noon, I'm going to be talking with Cheryl Cran from Next Mapping. You can look that up. We're going to be talking about the future work. And then Wednesday at 1 p.m., we'll be on w4cy.com and for our live radio show. And we'll be talking with, what did I say? Oh, Julie Ann Sullivan about catalysts of culture. So very similar to kind of the next step after this. And again, it's the follow-up is I think culture is going to be really, really important moving forward.
For sure.
For top talent. For people who want a paycheck, it doesn't matter. For people that you want to be engaged and be productive and stick with you, and people who can be a little bit selective, it's gonna be the future. So I appreciate that. Reminder to, let me go up here and see if I can find it, or I won't waste your time. Nah, I won't waste your time doing it. One last thing I put up the other day, and where is the? There it is. Okay, over the weekend, actually released a new book about the remote employee blueprint. It basically, whether you're working at home, whether you're trying to work from home, and you're trying to do it better, what type of technology, what type of equipment, how do you protect your security, a whole list of things. There's actually 11 chapters. You can basically go up to, let me see here. It's free. You can see on the bottom there. So if you go to bit.ly/remote work blueprint, or you can just go up to my website and it'll be there. Or if you subscribe to Googleization Nation, the newsletter has it in there, and I'll be promoting that. So it's absolutely free. It's about 70 pages, and you can download it right away. All I need is a first name and an email. So until then, let's go back here. We'll get our faces one more time. Again, appreciate it. You've been listening to the Crazy Shifts Show with Amy Miller. And Amy, stay safe. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. You appreciate as well, Ira.
Everyone else,
Take care.
Thanks for everybody who was watching. And spread the word. Let's get some more people, more questions, more participation. Thanks.